Welcome, everyone. We are the Mootplication Developers. My name is Rameen Khan.
My name is Emily Makeev.
And I'm Matthew Almeida.
And we have for you today a game that we call Mootiplication because it's cow-themed and it's about multiplication. And essentially, it's just a game that is a way for people in general trying to learn their multiplication numbers, a way for them to practice doing so. So this game basically has 3 different difficulty levels per turn. Basically, each player selects a difficulty level, random numbers are generated, and they have to find the product of those random numbers. If they get it correct, then they get to move up spaces according to the difficulty level they chose. So if they chose difficult, they move up 3 spaces if they got it correct. If they chose medium, they move up 2 spaces. And if they chose easy, they move up 1 space. If a player gets a question incorrect, then they either move back the respective amount of spaces or they just go back to start. And each player has 3 skips that they can use, and the first person to reach the end of the board is the person that wins.
Okay, so I'll be player 1, and I'll select difficult so I can move 3 spaces at a time. So it gave me 833 and 915. So ideally, we would want to have people work these out on paper, but for time's sake, I'm just going to put them in on a calculator. So 762195. And then if I get it correct, I get a green lamp in the corner, a nice little affirmation charm.
So one thing that I'd like to point out at the beginning is that when I was thinking this through ThinkSpeak, I have ThinkSpeak keep track of the turns automatically. However, the board in general doesn't update unless the player interacts with the app in some way. So you'll see when I press the difficulty level select button that the board updates for me. So you can see that Matthew moved up 3 spaces, and you can see that whose turn field, it displays the correct player. So now it's all updated for me. It shows that I'm player 2 and that Matthew's 3 spaces ahead. And I'm just going to choose an easy one. And that's 8. You can see it like that.
The audio might be a little distorted because of screen sharing technical difficulties, but I could hear it. So.
Once again, you can see that the board has updated. I'll select easy and I'll type in 1. That's clearly not the right answer. So you can see I'm showing how the incorrect choice works. So the incorrect button lights up and I move back.
Okay.
My turn again. 350 times 592 is 1,072. 0. And I once again got it correct.
I'll choose easy just again. And let's say I really don't know what 1 times 8 is. That's just really difficult for me. So I can choose skip. And once I skip, you can see that the turn ends. It automatically goes back to player 1, and I don't move at all on the board. Additionally, you can see that my skips left have gone down. So now I only have 2 skips left, and that will update for Matthew also because the number of skips per player that are left are kept track of through ThinkSpeak.
All right, once again, my turn. I check to see that her number of skips has gone down, and it has. So then I will enter answer 2238, and then I will get it correct.
So go easy, and I just want to show that like the skips are working. It skips and it automatically goes to Matthew's turn.
And now this last turn, if I get it right, which hopefully I should, I'm using a calculator, should bring me over the score of 36, which would give me the winning condition. Okay. And I get it correct. It plays a euphony of cow sounds, and then it says, "Congratulations, player, when you are legendary," in which I can press the play again button, and it will bring us to the start of a game where all the positions are reset and everything's good to go.
So you can see when I select it, everything gets reset. So we're back to the start of the game. Now we're just going to go over the code really quickly just to kind of get an overview of how everything works. So you can see at the beginning, oh, and right now I'm using the exported file, not the like code in App Designer. So just FYI. Anyway, there's a bunch of properties here, which basically are just all the elements that are used in the game. There's also methods. I wrote these methods just so that we can reference them throughout the code. They basically make everything a little simpler because now instead of having to type out all of this every time we want to do something, we can just use the function created in the methods. So you can see I have one that clears all the fields in the game, one that updates the turns, and one that moves the players. Where's the there? And the way we move the players is I basically created an array for all of the positions on the game board. And then every time a player gets scores, I plot their new positions, and we use their score to index the position in the array. And we separate them player 1 and player 2 through ThinkSpeak so that every time it indexes the correct player's score and in the positions. Then there's also a lot of callbacks. So when the game is opened, it basically just fills in all the fields that need to be filled in. It loads all the images, and there's certain buttons that can only be pressed at certain times in the game. So it sets all of that so that players can only edit it when it's appropriate. Then, as we showed earlier, when players select the difficulty level, the game accesses all the information that's the most current in ThinkSpeak and updates the entire board for the player. That's shown here. The numbers that players have to multiply are created based on which level they create. When players guess, the game tests whether or not the answer is correct, and then it also tests whose turn it is by using the mod function and looking at the turn property. And depending on whose turn it is and if the answer is correct or not, the game adds a score, and then it sends it to ThinkSpeak.
So then I wrote the congratulatory aspect. So basically, it's just a screen that pops up depending on who wins. The picture that we used of the cow and then the cow pun that was used, it was all made by us. Actually, every image that we used in this project is all images that we own and images that Emily actually took of the cows. So that is why we don't have any sources cited. But basically, for the congratulatory page, the maximum score a player can get according to the board is 36. Of course, they could technically get a score greater than 36 if, let's say, they only have one space left to the end, but then they choose a difficult question where they would technically move up 3 spaces if they got it correct. So because of that, if any player ever exceeds 36 or has a score of 36, then a pop-up comes up of the congratulatory page, which is why then it becomes visible, as you can see. And that just takes over the whole screen.
You can also see that I made like a play again button, which only becomes visible if a player wins. The skip button is only displayed if players have skips left and if they have started their turn. So when players press the skip button, it checks whose turn it is, and then it subtracts a skip and sends that to ThinkSpeak so that all stays updated there. So when the play again button is pushed, everything just reverts back to its original setting. And here's where the methods that I wrote earlier come in very, very handy, because instead of having to write out all of that code, we just reuse the code we used earlier. So it basically just resets the game and players can start again.
I did all the audio that you hear and some of the little animations that you see. So you can see that every time someone presses the guess button, 2 things can happen. If they get it correct, they will get the answer right, and they'll also get a moo recorded by me, my voice. These are just stored in the files that you have to download in order to play the game. So the MATLAB actually reads the audio waveform and plots it out and then plays it back to us. These ones are the happier sounding moos that I recorded. So this is when you get an answer correct. And then down here, if the guess is not the correct value, we can see that it's essentially the same thing, except all the moos are more mean. Okay, and then I also did a bunch of stuff here too. Okay. And then for the animation that plays, but for the incorrect, it's a cow leaning to the left and then disappearing and then leaning to the right and then appearing and then disappearing 8 times, which is really fast. So it looks like it's shaking its head. And the same thing happens for the correct one, where it goes up and then down and over and over, so that it looks like it's nodding its head in affirmation of your correct guess. And then at the end, it plays a couple moo sounds. Both are happy for both players. So it plays, wait, hold on, I'm just gonna start that over. When a player reaches the end, it ends up playing a couple sounds just to congratulate the player. And this happens regardless of who won, and it's the same sound. And it works the same way, where it plots it out and then plays it out using the sound function.
Thank you for watching our video, and we hope you enjoyed this demonstration of our multiplication game.